ticks, please. That would be really helpful. That's great. Thank you. Um, So I'm going to be going through this afternoon about what Ofsted will be looking for when they're making the sixth form judgments, and also the reasons why there is now a separate judgment. And as I go through, there'll be a number of resources which will be linked to at the end. What is really helpful in these sessions, if you have any questions at all, do just tap them in, because then it makes sure that it is truly your session, and that makes it even more worthwhile for all concerned. Just before we get going, would you be able to tick again if you're using Twitter? If any of you are on Twitter and using it for education, could you just tick, please? Matthew, you are, and Andy. Right. Okay. So I'm just going to say right at the start that there are amazing resources on Twitter for education in particular, and there are a number of colleagues saying that it is one of the most important links for keeping up to date with what's happening in education. And if you're not, then I do encourage you to at least have a look. You don't need to contribute, but it's well worth just seeing what is there. And there are a number of colleagues who are saying that they get information from what's happening from Ofsted and the Department for Education more quickly than virtually any other form of communication through local authorities or academy chains, etc. It's also extremely valuable for sharing resources, sharing ideas, and putting questions out there and then people coming and answering. Katie, can you hear me more clearly now? Oh, it's all okay now. Okay, that's excellent. Thank you. That's exactly how it should be used. So that's great. Um, so if you're not on it, I suggest you are, and if you really are allergic to it, then get someone either in your department or in your school to. I think it's good practice to have at least one person in the school who's using Twitter for professional purposes. Um, Before we get into the session, I'm going to ask Graham to pull up a poll, please, now. And he's going to be asking, well, I'm going to ask you the extent to how confident you are about a sixth form inspection. So you're going to have the chance to put either very confident, not very confident, etc. Just a few responses in there, and I'll pause for a second while you're doing that. Okay, right. So that's really helpful. And a couple of you have had inspections recently, and one as late as last Wednesday and Thursday. Goodness. Okay, so hot off the press then for you. Okay, so I'm going to end that poll, and then we'll take some. Um, we'll do the same thing at the end and check where people are. Okay, then. So. What we're aiming to do then for this session is to understand the reasons why there is a separate judgment, to consider the range of evidence considered during an inspection, and to know which documents it's wise to have ready. Okay. So just by way of background to the judgment, that we're making separate individual graded judgments on the sixth form, and it's written up separately within the report. Um, the reason for this is that when you read Ofsted reports and tried to find out the quality of provision both at the start of schooling, so early years, and then at Key Stage 5, it was often quite hard to follow a narrative through that you could actually have a clear picture if you were reading it as a parent or a carer, or indeed a young person considering going to a sixth form, it was quite hard to make a decision about or make a judgment about the quality of provision. And so a view was taken that it was important to have this written up and judged separately. And how effective it is used in coming to a conclusion about the overall grade of the school. Now, it's not possible to say absolutely what balance is put on the effectiveness of the sixth form judgment because a lot of it will depend on its size and what is happening in the rest of the school. So it is possible to have a school which should be judged overall as requiring improvement, but that the sixth form is judged as either good or outstanding. Um, the it's always been written about, but it was not graded separately. And certainly for colleagues who've just been through an inspection recently, um, if you've been through an inspection before, could you just type in and say, did it feel from your point of view as though there was more focus from the inspection team compared with previous inspections? You might not have been through a previous inspection. Would you mind just popping in a comment about that, whether it felt as though there was more focus on what was happening in the sixth form? And I'll just pause there while you do that. Thank you. Yes. Okay, that's really interesting. I'm sure we can all see that. Lisa's written from the feedback we were given. It seems that there was a very heavy focus on the sixth form. That is correct. And the sixth form was looked at intensively, says Sima, and there was a lot of focus on progress. We're going to be picking up on that a bit later. I'll just wait while Kate finishes typing. Or Katie, sorry, not Kate. Oh, right, that's interesting, Katie. You always preferred to have the sixth form as a separate judgment. Now that's interesting. Would you mind just typing in why? Because I'm also doing similar work at the other end of the spectrum with early years colleagues, and a number of them are saying exactly the same thing, that they prefer to have a separate judgment. Um, what I would say at this stage, while Kate is just finishing typing, is that the principles on which an Ofsted go in to any school or any setting are the same. What we're basically trying to find out is, are the students or pupils here getting a good deal? And what we're looking at is separate data, but the principles on which we look at that data are the same. Um, so that's why there are similar conversations that I'm having with colleagues at Key Stage 5 as I am with Key Stage at the early years. Now that's interesting. Kate has written, our grade at post 16 was better and we felt you had more control over your outcome, which is, it seems to me, is a great deal fairer. Possibly the settings which are not better than the rest of the school might not feel the same way. But I think that, in the interest of transparency and information to young people and their parents and carers, it is overall a useful addition in terms of the information. I think the other thing to say is that colleagues working in the sixth form working incredibly hard, and it's a pity if their efforts are not recognised. Okay, so thank you for that contribution, Katie. That is really, really helpful. Um, so the numerical grade that is given for the quality of education in the sixth form has to evaluate these four things.